Happy Thursday. Happy podcast day, Thomas.
Happy Thursday, Scott. You're coming in just a little bit low.
It's because I'm talking in the wrong end of the microphone.
There he is.
Is this any better?
There he is. Happy Thursday. Happy verdict watch. Is that timer still going? Is that still rolling?
No, we stopped it at 34 minutes after the hour. The jury said we want to go home for the night.
Okay.
Which was basically 26 minutes early.
They want to go home, get some
slackers. Slackers is what I say. They only had to work till 5. I mean, how many people have to work till 5? By show of hands. Well, all of us, right? But they went home a few minutes early. And they'll be back at 8:30 in the morning, continue deliberating. So we've got about an hour and a half roughly of deliberation in so far.
Okay. So they want to go home, get a good night's rest, and then they want to show up tomorrow, hang out, get a free lunch, and then submit a verdict form. That's my guess.
It's worse than that. They also want some readbacks.
Oh,
they want some
really?
testimony readbacks. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten into. I haven't even had time to look at who. Laura, we've got a court watcher in there who is giving me updates, and she's telling me who was. Let me see here. It was okay. The jury asked for an exhibit list. Then the jury asked for the transcript of Dr. Tim's testimony, and the judge says we're going to prepare an exhibit list. We'll let you know when it gets there. And they were discussing the readback. They're probably looks like they're going to take care of it tomorrow. So, yeah, perfect. That's where it's at.
All right. So I have to address the elephant in the room, and red pen is called it.
Can I yell at my kids while you do that for just a second?
100% you can. Yes.
Not yell at, yell to.
Yeah. So many of you have noticed the new background. Super excited. There's a few drawbacks. Yes, you can see the mirrors because I didn't know if this was going to work, how it was going to pan out. So I didn't want to take them all down, put this up, and it was awful, and then redo it.
It gives it like a surreal effect, like light shining through the clouds. I like it.
Well, I have lights behind it. They're shining up.
Oh, there is light shining through the clouds.
Yeah, there is.
What you're saying.
Yeah, down on the ground. So the other thing is the dimension when I laid it out and put it up, that was supposed to be showing.
Oh, it's a tornado. It's not just an amazing cloud formation. There's actually a tornado there.
Yeah, just my ugly face in front of a. So if I get out of the way here.
If you could, can you just stand there for most of the podcast? Because that looks beautiful.
I absolutely can. Oh, it's like a weatherman. I need a green
screen. It's not
screen.
No Pants Friday, guys. This could have been a very different show from what we have tonight.
So there's a tornado. No, yeah, weatherman. So, anyways, there will be some revisions done on the new background. This is the test stream for it. It's been up. The other thing that it's actually kind of funny. Do you ever hear about people talking about how you speak something into the atmosphere? Like, oh, don't say that. Now it's going to happen type scenario.
Yeah. I've heard of that. As a kid, there was like certain things you couldn't say into the mirror or else something was going to come out and jump at you or something. There's a boogeyman. I don't remember the details, but.
Yeah. Or like, oh, you put that out into the environment. And now it's going to come to fruition because you did it. Well, anyways, I'm not a huge believer it happens.
That's not quite as dark as I went, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've been waiting for this thing to show up for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? And I like to walk down to our little community mailbox all the time, and I'm walking down and I'm saying, all right, it's got to be here today. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Yeah, speaking it to existence. This 8-foot by 14-foot banner, they're going to ship it to me in a 1-by-1 envelope. I guarantee. I had the thought walking, and I'm like, I'm going to be so mad because what you would do is roll it and put it in a big cardboard tube, right? Not kidding you. I get to that mailbox, open it up, pull it out, says my name. There's the company, and it's in a 1-by-1 envelope. I get in the garage, and my wife's sitting in the garage, and I'm steaming mad. And she's, what's wrong? And I slam the thing down on the ground, and I rip it open, and I pull it out, and it is just creased to the high heavens all over. And so I crumpled it like all up in a big ball, and I throw it behind my motorcycles, just pouting like a 12-year-old, and I stomp off. I was so mad. So it needs to be steamed. I have about 3-ish feet of extra banner that cuts around that wall. So I'm going to also slide it over so you can maybe see the tornado like here, I think. So there's work to be done. I have a rainy Saturday ahead. That's what'll take place. And I will then pull the mirrors down for those that are judging.
Can I ship you my green screen and have you steam that? Because it's wrinkled. It arrived the same way. I kid you not. I've had to like stretch it I've nailed it into the wall and I've stretched it so the wrinkles. I don't own an iron. First of all, my family, we do not own an iron. If something is wrinkled, you put it you get it wet, and you throw it in the dryer, and then you pull it out while it's hot, and it fixes everything, and it saves that. Have you tried throwing it in the dryer?
So I have, and it does work, but it only works for certain materials I learned. So in my bachelor days, living in my apartment by myself, and when I had a golf job, and you have to be presentable, you have to be fake professional is what I always called it. I bought one of those little cheap hand steamers, and it was amazing. I just would hang a shirt on the shower rod in the bathroom, turn on that little steamer, and just hit the shirt. 5 minutes, done. Awesome. Way better than an ironing board and an iron. And so I actually still use that. My wife does ironing and this, that, and the other. I try to skip out as fast as I can. Or because I don't have that job or do anything anymore. So I just wear wrinkled clothes because it doesn't matter.
I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. I cannot tell you how many times I've found the attire for the day based on what was in the clean laundry basket. And that's where we go.
Yes.
But it looks awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the tornado. I mean, honestly, it turned out well. I realize you're probably frustrated, but had it arrived folded neatly, you would just have more defined creases in a pattern. You'd probably still have to deal with the same way.
Yeah, fair. That's why I wanted it rolled up in a tube. But it is what it is. I like it better than the mirrors. So it's a little bit better. I got to tweak the camera and stuff as well and change some lighting, but it's better. And we're getting there. But anyways, tonight is a fun show, a little bit different than all the other shows. Minus we've had guests before. We have a really, really cool guest on tonight. Not that our other guests haven't been cool, but this particular guest is like more excited for the show than we are, which makes me really excited. So he's giving thumbs up in the background. So,
oh man, introduce us, Thomas. This is a friend of yours. Give us the introduction.
It is Brian. I'll consider a new friend. We've just met recently. This is Officer Brian. He is part of the law enforcement community here in North Texas. For those of you that know, I am doing the Civilians Police Academy here in my local town, and Officer Brian, on top of many other hats that he wears, is in charge of facilitating the entire thing and putting it all together and hosting us and educating us and entertaining as well. So Brian, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for saying, heck yeah, I'll do it, and I can't wait.
Oh man, thank y'all for having me, man. Like I was telling you earlier, for me, this is like a bucket list check off, and I don't know why every time I think of podcast, I'm always reminded of Jack Black and Nacho Libre when he's sitting down with the nun. He's like, let's get down to the real nitty gritty. You know, like, I don't know why I think that way, but yeah, I know we're not going to like tear each other apart. I'm just like, yeah, let's just sit down and talk stuff out.
Brian, I'm happy to meet you. I'm just glad you got the memo. We said blue shirts or don't show up at all. And
I mean, back to blue, right?
Thank you very
back
much.
To blue.
I look blue here. It's actually purple, but I'll fix it.
Oh, that's too funny. And Brian, just so you know, on screen there, Homeschool Ground Zero, that is Scott's wonderful wife. So she will chime in with some very witty and funny comments that are often timely. So if anything is directed your way, it's not personal. She is just Johnny on the spot with her.
I will agree with her every time.
That is awesome. You gotta have a woman like that behind you.
She's wonderful. She's amazing.
So Brian, welcome to the show, being a guest. Obviously, when you're here, the people want to get to know who you are a little bit. And it's as much as I've had some time to be around you, it's in a different setting. So now we kind of got you away from the duty belt and the badge, and we can be a little free. So I would like to ask just some questions and get to know who you are.
I'm here for that, man. I'm just here to have a good time. Like I said, I'm already having a great time. I've been waiting for this literally all week long. So I'm just like, I'm ready just to have a good laugh and just enjoy my night.
That's
I was going to go more formal. I was going to go formal. We're usually when we're introduced to police officers on the channel, we hear your CV. You tell us how many years you worked at the department. You tell us what trainings you've been to, which certifications you have, your specialties, your rank, all that. Obviously, we don't have to go into that, but maybe you could tell us a quick, funny police story, like a funny encounter with the citizens. Do you have anything like that?
Oh my
Without
God.
revealing
Well,
personal names and things.
I've been with the department almost 10 years now, actually 10 years this year. And I spent about 7.5 years of that on day and night shift patrol. So you can imagine what all I've heard and seen. But I mean, some of the funniest things you come across is like when you're dealing with somebody in a bad area and you stop them and they end up having a warrant for their arrest. So our job is to now search said person to make sure they don't have any contraband or weapons before we put them in our car. And you'll tell them flat out, like, hey, I'm gonna search you. You have anything on you? No, I don't. Reach into their pocket, you pull out something, you look at it, and you know it's drugs. And the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, these ain't my pants. And you're like, whose pants are they? They're like, oh, this is my friend's pants. I was like, did you just wake up and draw on your friend's pants and head out the door today, man? Like, what?
That's pretty. They're not my pants. I love it.
They're not my pants.
So Karen asked, how did you and I meet? So Karen, I have joined the Citizens Police Academy, not to be confused with the actual police academy. I am not in training to become a peace officer of any sort. It is a program that the department local to me puts on to engage the public and educate and Brian, would it be fair to say, be real transparent with how things operate and what's done? Or how would you describe that?
That is the best word. I told people all the time, we allow the civilians in the world to know about policing, but also too to ask the hard truth. Because some people want to know why we do something the way we do, or why was it done this particular way. And I'm here to give them the right answers. Like I said, I'm here to spread the right kind of knowledge to people, but also, like you said, be transparent. Like, we have nothing to hide. We really don't. We want people to know what we do in the community because they see us every day and they support us. So yeah, transparency is key.
Awesome. And we're roughly halfway through the academy, I want to say.
Yeah, about halfway. I think we got about 5, maybe 6 more weeks left.
Perfect. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So Karen, Brian is in charge of, again, on top of many other duties and hats he wears, of facilitating this whole academy and putting it together and scheduling different divisions among the departments to come in and educate us and show us things and do, show and tells in different areas and involvement. So that's how I met Brian. And of course, there's an entire class of us. So it's not like I get to hang out with Brian the whole time solo and get all his attention. And I just happened to ask him one day, hey, we do a podcast. You want to come talk and hang out? And zero hesitation. He said, when and where, and I'll be there. So that's here we are.
Brian, the Thomas doesn't know this, but all the moderators have reached out to me and asked if you could pull some strings. I realize there's like rules and stuff for the class. Is there some way you could bend the rules and use Thomas as a demonstration for the taser during the class? Is that possible?
I would say back in the day, we had the tasers, where they called them alligator clips, where you could clip it onto somebody's shirt and just flick it on. But the tasers we use now are actually the ones that deploy the barbs.
He's good with that. He's
and unfortunately, those things do cost money. So we would have to get that through.
How much? We could crowdfund this. This is
no, don't. This is a very gifting crowd that's watching the show. Do not even tease that.
I was fixing to say, man, we could do taser, but if we're going to do taser, you might as well go ahead and do OC spray as well.
No.
I'm not for it. Where do we sign?
I promise you, OC spray is by far the worst. I would rather be tased every day for the rest of my life than be OC sprayed in the face again, in my opinion.
That's fair. Scott, did I put you back in the right spot, or did I mess it up?
I'm good. Did I get shuffled around? I'm good.
I put myself backstage when you guys were bringing all this up because I was hiding from the
I was looking at something else. My wife's holding a vote. If you guys want to go ahead and vote in chat, we'll take care of this and finalize it. Brian? No, you don't have to use OC spray, bear spray, anything little. little mace or something. Just you don't have to go the full.
You know, just maybe be like showing them the can and just accidentally just hit the finger, and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
This is not what I envisioned for the show tonight.
No, honestly though, we're super excited. Usually every night or on the podcast, Thomas comes back and he tells us the amazing stuff he's learned about the police department, and he's got some connections. Obviously, he's familiar with the policing in general, but being able to go there and hang out and learn and you know, ask the questions and sort of see behind the scenes. And some, I mean, in some cases, you're literally seeing behind the scenes. On investigations, things. It's amazing. It's a great experience. I've been able to go through one of those classes myself. Loved it.
I honestly wish more people in our community would do it, because I will honestly say this is the second year I've been doing it, and Thomas's schedule, like, this is the beefiest schedule we've ever put together. Like, has a little bit of classwork so people can like see stuff. Some stuff just has to be PowerPoint, but the rest of it's all type of hands-on stuff.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And looking at the agenda moving forward, there's even more fun. I mean, we're going to be hands-on with SWAT and, you know, dealing with their firearms and what they do in their operation. What I'm looking forward to, Brian, you and I spoke about this last night, is shoot, don't shoot scenarios. So this is a little heavy, but those that really like to pass judgments of police encounters and things that happen in the media, are now put in situations of, hey, shoot, don't shoot. Now you're going to be in a room in a setting where you have to make that decision really quick, and it's fake. So it's still high pressure. It's still really spooky, and it's not normal, and it's still not even a real scenario. So it's that I can't wait for. That's going to be a lot of fun. There's so much. And I love, like Scott said, every night when we do our show, I give an update on what I learned from you guys on that Monday prior. And so it's so much fun to do a follow-up.
I'm happy that we rescheduled to throw in the driving. We updated the schedule because we missed it because of the rain.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, we just don't trust a lot of people to drive a cop car. So hopefully we'll have a clear day. Because
why is that?
Well, I can honestly say from personal experience, yeah, I've wrecked a cop car. Not gonna lie, done it. Wasn't proud moment. Funny, that was a funny story. That's another day. But
I think it's a great day today.
I mean, I can shorten it down real quick. And I mean, trust me, the details I give you, like, I took my wife out there past. I'm like, yep, that's Brian's Bend right there. That's where it all went south. And
do all the officers refer to that as, you know, hey, what?
A lot of them do.
I mean, just passing Brian's Bend.
Yeah, if you want the story, I mean, I can give it to you real short and sweet. Because I mean, oh man, I was on night shift, and it was a really busy night. I was actually taking a report when one of my sergeants called out on the radio saying he had a car with no headlights around. This is at like 2 a.m. So give and take for people chiming in, the bars around here close at 2. So 9 times out of 10, they're probably drunk driving. Well, he lit them up. They refused to stop. So the chase is on. He's calling it out. So I clear from the call, and I'm pretty close. And where they're heading in our town, it leads to from Southwest Parkway to Kell Expressway. So I jump up on Kell. My mentality is, well, I'm just going to kind of meet them and get into the chase with them. Well, as I'm doing about, 110 down Kell, which is a straightaway, he calls out saying, well, the car wrecked out. The guy's on foot. So I'm like, okay, now I need to get to the call, like chase this guy. I'm getting amped up. I take an exit, and I thought I was like, oh no, I took the wrong exit. So I'm just going to stay on the access road, make a U-turn under the expressway, and I'll be where I need to be. Well, on that particular side road right there, I didn't realize where exactly I was. It goes up and makes like a hard 90-degree turn to the left. And I'm doing about 95 when I come up on this 90-degree turn. So in my mind, I'm like, this isn't going to go well. Like, I was tunnel vision, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is bad. So I pumped the brakes, and I was thinking, well, I'm just going to slide it off into the grass, maybe take out a barbed wire fence, and, I'll get a slap on the hand. No, the one place I went off, it drops about 5 feet into a cement rain culvert.
Oh,
so I like hit it, continue forward. Well, that culvert makes it 90. So I like dukes a hazard out on the other side and landed in a field. And I mean,
tell me there's dash cam on this.
There was dash cam, not anymore. But it was one of those things when it happened. I mean, it happened so fast. The airbags went off. I remember like sitting there. I get out of my car, and of course the wheels are just like bent at an angle. It's all jacked up. And I just remember getting on the radio calling my call sign and going, yeah, I just wrecked out. It was literally about 30 minutes later, the sergeant comes rolling by that got into that pursuit. And he's like, what did you do? I'm like, I went to work the next day. Like, luckily I didn't injure myself. I just bruised myself up pretty good, but I was at work the next day. But my car was completely totaled. I ended up bending the front A-frame up like 5 inches when I like Dukes of Hazzard out of the culvert.
What kind of police car were you driving? What was the model?
It was a Ford Explorer. It was an SUV.
Oh, so this wasn't
You were
too
hoping
long
it's
ago.
Crown Vic, weren't you? You were
This
hoping
was-
it was a Crown Vic.
I like the Crown Vics.
I did too. I got
my
to
wife
drive
had a
one.
Crown Vic, a fleet Crown Vic that used to be in the commercial fleet, and it was I blew the engine in it. So that's a different story.
Yeah.
It was ready to be blown before you got it. You just finished it off. That's how those cars are set up. But,
Yeah.
Brian, we've got Crazy Cat Queen gifted $5 super chat. Crazy Cat, thanks so much. Question: what's the funniest thing a child/teen has said? A non-drunk adult? ? And thank you so much for being here. Do you have an experience that you can kind of go back to, or?
To be honest, some teens, when I dealt with teens, they didn't really say any funny things. They just said some really vulgar things. Like, I think I've been called some of the worst thing by literally a kid/teenager versus an adult. And I ain't gonna lie, I kind of just look at him with this face like, who are you talking to like that? And I'm like, honestly, I just want to like drop my belt and take a belt off and give him an old-fashioned butt whooping, but I'm just like, what is, like, I'm trying to comprehend what you just told me. Like,
Yeah,
I can't pronounce it all here, or the whole thing would be bleeped out.
that's wild. That's real wild. Have you so I guess I'll piggyback off the question that Crazy Cat asked. What have you had? I know it's kind of serious, but when you get like a public intox or something like that, a call to a bar, have you had, there's videos out there that those that are pretty intoxicated say some real funny things. I saw one the other day. Someone said something about like, I'm 2 minutes over the limit. He thought he was arrested for time and he was late for something. I mean, have you ever encountered a drunk individual that was actually hilarious or said anything funny that was, there's no danger involved per se, but anything?
When we got calls to bars when I was on night shift, that was the common thing in my area. I had a lot of the bars. Most of the people would be just really cool with me because I was really cool with them. I'm like, look, I know you're intoxicated. You've been acting a fool here. You just need to get out of here, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to get out of here. I mean, I've had people like want to hug me, like, oh my God, thank you. Don't take me to jail, man. I'm going to leave. And I'm like, well, you're not leaving on your own. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
like, give me your keys. Let's call you a cab or an Uber and let's get you out of here. And I mean, a lot of people say, I mean, I have had one person like off the movie who literally said, well, I'm going to get out of here, man. I'm too drunk to chase this chicken. And I'm like, well, hold on. No. Like, you need to hold on a second, man. I'll get you out of here, but I need you to like stay right here where I can see you this whole time.
Fair.
Chad is still donating to the Taser Fund. My kid's dinner fund. Thomas better get tased.
There's nearly $50 being donated to me getting tased. I don't know what I have done to those in chat and why they want to see me get tased so badly, but this is the train of gifting Taser Fund money is. I've been dry stunned a bunch.
We have a competing fund as well. It's a little smaller, but
it's a little
it's growing.
Regina, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Brian, taking a step back, what made you say, "Hey, I want to get in law enforcement. I want to do something"? And what were you doing prior? What were you leaning towards? What were you juggling before you ended up where you are now?
Well, I'm always happy to tell this story. I actually told it today. We actually had to go do a job fair this afternoon in town.
Mm-hmm.
And before this, I was in college, finishing up college. I was actually a department manager at Lowe's.
Okay.
So been there for like 4 years.
We need to
Hey,
talk.
I still know a lot of stuff. I still remember a lot of stuff from that job.
I have spent a small fortune at Lowe's in the last couple months.
Who hasn't? I know I have too. Like, I luckily can go right in there and go right to where I need to grab something and leave because I know where everything's at. But just finished college.
Send me his number.
You got it. Scott's got a home renovation going on that he really needs help with. So
Yeah, good luck. I was gonna say, but I just finished college. You know, you're in that transition period. Like, well, what am I going to do with my life? I actually graduated with a bachelor in science and psychology, and I was literally like, hey, I'm just going to join the military. I'm going to go live my life. I was single at the time, no kids, so I'm like, I'm just going to go do this. And I actually went to my grandparents' house to go just visit with them and chat. And this is when people used to get the newspaper. My grandparents were like, hey, the police department's hiring. And I was just like, why not? I'll give it a shot. And 6 months later, I was starting day one of the academy. Like,
oh wow, that was
like,
fast.
yeah, I would say back then it took about 6 months from start to finish to accept the position into the academy. We've got it down to about 3 months now. But
Wow.
there's all so many levels of testing that you have to go through to make sure you're fit to be an officer, you know.
Right.
But I mean, it was just, I didn't grow up wanting to be a cop. I never thought about being a cop, but I had that willingness to learn and try something new and just take that leap of faith. And for me, you know, some people say, well, you know, I want to be like a hero. Well, no, I don't consider myself a hero. I was just a curious person by nature. I want to know why people do some of the things they do and say what they say. So why not go be a cop? Because you're definitely going to see it and hear it all.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. You mentioned the streamlining of applying to training to starting now versus then.
Mhm.
Again, you and I kind of touched on it last night. One thing that I'm heavily impressed with your particular department is, like I said, I was going to go to TCOL school, and for those that don't know, it's the governing body over the state of Texas that trains you to become a peace officer. It's not department specific, and what's cool is your department has your own training, basically that follows the same guidelines and all that, but you guys require way more hours than the state does, which is awesome. So
Yes,
you
that is true. TCOL standards, roughly give or take approximately about 750 hours of training before you are dismissed to be eligible to work the streets. Our department requires over 1,000 hours. So we require almost 400 extra hours of classwork and training. And that's during the academy. That doesn't include once you get out of the academy, you have 3 months of field training to do as well. So from the time you start the academy to the time you're done, I mean, you've done almost a year of training.
That's incredible.
that's
We
awesome.
have a case, the case we're following right now. One of the detectives, literally, he says, how do you become a detective? Well, I attended a week-long course in Vegas, was his answer. And stark difference to the training. So that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of prep.
Yeah, and that's just for like the basic peace officer stuff. I was in my career, my 10 years of career, I've worked patrol. I worked in misdemeanor detectives for a short time, and that's on the job training. You know, you just take what you learn from the streets and just apply it to a different area. But of course, it's a lot more paperwork and a lot more hoops that you have to jump through because now you're in charge of proving innocence and guilt. So there's a little bit more that goes into it, a little bit extra stress, but honestly, it was really fulfilling in the end when you get something done and you put it all together and you're like, yeah, I got you. Like, I got all the evidence, I got all the statements, it all adds up, A, B, C, D. Like, I got you.
Man, I want to interrupt just briefly and ask you a couple questions. Sort of like the best of sort of things, but just police officer specific. What's the highest blood alcohol content you've had someone blow at a stop?
Oof.
Oh, for me, normally in the state of Texas, I've had people blow on the instrument, and I had someone blow 3 times the legal limit.
Oof.
Now, I've had to work other DWI cases where we had to get like a blood sample after getting a warrant for their blood. And some of those people were like borderline alcohol poisoning.
And that's like hours after they've stopped drinking from
Yeah.
whatever they're doing because the warrant and the time it takes to drop. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like we've had some crazy moments. And of course, when we get a warrant for your blood, people are like, well, you can't have it. I'm like, no, I got a warrant. Like, I'm going to take it, like plain and simple. So it's either you willingly cooperate, or we're going to have to find another means to get this, and you're
But
not
part of
going to like
warrant,
this.
don't you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so sort of along the same lines. Drugs. Occasionally, you catch people with drugs. What's like the biggest drug bust that you've been a part of?
Been a part of. I can honestly say I have not been a part of some of our big buzz, because those are more specialized units, or narcotics units, or a specialized task force that set up and make these big cases. The most I've ever gotten on my own, like one time, and it was a very we call it the snowball effect. Something very small turned into something big, and it just kept rolling from there. I recovered like 4 different types of prescription pills, like an abundance, heroin, cocaine, and meth, and it was just a treasure trove. And I just stood there like, oh, I'm going to be doing a lot of paperwork tonight.
Was it a selfie moment where you're like, look what's on the hood
I would
behind
love
me?
to do that. I think that'd be really cool. But then I'm like, yeah, it'd be my luck. My phone would get seized and have to go to court. And now they're going to have everything in my phone. And I'm going to be like,
Okay, last one. What's the best excuse someone's given you for speeding?
for speeding? Honestly, one of them was like, I'm on my way to the ER. I'm like, you're driving to the ER? Yeah, something's not right. I don't feel good. I'm like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to follow you to the ER. So you can go a little bit faster. I'm behind you, but I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to make sure you get into the ER safely, because I don't want you to wreck out or anything. They're like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm lying. I was just speeding, man. I'm not going to the ER. I was about to go make them charge an ER bill, you know?
We're going anyway. We're going to call them an ambulance, make them pay for that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's cool. Good answers, all 3.
Yeah, I like it. You mentioned something a minute ago about court. How do officers in general, I know you can't speak for all of them because some probably love it and others than that, but when you find out you've been subpoenaed to testify, is it like, and I'm not talking, well, and I don't know if you know or if you've been experienced or not, but you can just speak kind of in general and even what you've heard around the department, but not like I got to show up to traffic court type thing, you know, in this 17-year-old in his Mustang, and I got to make sure I show him what happened. But like a criminal case, how do the majority of officers feel about that when they go up? I mean, is it like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I did everything by the book and I'm ready to do it. Or is it like, I did everything by the book, but oh my gosh, I don't want to have to do this. This is scary, or it's nerve wracking.
I would say it's the latter, man. I mean, I can tell you right now, nobody wants to go to court. Civilian, cop, nobody wants to go to court. Even I know in my heart that I did everything right. I wrote a good report. I dotted my I's, crossed my T's. You know, they're calling you in because they believe they can possibly trip you up on something. So
Right.
you're going into the unknown. And of course, when I was on night shift, you always got called in to go to court during the daytime.
Oh,
So you're running on fumes already after working a 12-hour shift. Now you got to go sit in court all day to possibly take the stand for either 10 minutes to over 2 hours, getting drilled question after question over a case sometimes that you took 5 years ago.
good point.
Like at the last subpoena I know I got was in reference to a case that or actually just a simple report that I took. It was like over 4 to 5 years ago. So all I knew was what was in my report. So they're going to try to make you look incompetent because you're going to question, and you're just going to be like, I don't recall. Like, I can't make up stuff. I just don't recall what happened. They're like, well, it sounds like you don't know anything. I'm like, well, technically I don't, except what's in my report, because I've slept since then.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you expect? I mean, to remember everything?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that you bring up a great point, because I've shared with you who my good buddy that was on the department, now retired, is, and I completely forgot. It was years ago. He was part of a case. It was a big capital murder case here in our town. He was long retired before the guy finally went to trial, and it was held down in Fort Worth. And I remember he actually asked me, like, hey man, can I borrow a suit? I got to go to court, and I haven't, been on the department for like 5 years, and now I got to go. And so he didn't have to testify. They didn't eventually call him, but he just sat there waiting and waiting because he was on the witness list, and they kept saying, we might call you today. We might call you today. And he never did. But it was like 5 years after he retired. And I think the case itself happened like a year even before he retired. So 6 years later, they're calling him and he's going to have to testify on what he witnessed when he walked into this excruciating murder scene that he walked into. I never even thought about that. How much time passes, how much real life stuff happens. And now you're being asked to recall every tiny little detail. That would be hard, even if you did everything right. And
yeah, it really is. And that's where it comes down to a good officer writing a good report. Yes, we want to get our reports done and submitted, especially if it's towards the end of the work day or the work week. But it comes down to writing good reports, documenting every little thing. So if you got to stay a little bit over, it helps to write good stuff because, again, like you just said, it could be years down the line, something big like that. You're going to get called in and you will have to testify, and you can only rely on what's in front of you. I can't assume, I can't make up or say, well, this is how it goes when it actually went the other way. No, I have to rely on what's in front of me.
Makes sense.
So I'm curious about the police officer mindset, right? Because when you're on duty, there's a couple other officers probably from the same force out there, right? And dispatch is issuing calls. Are there certain type of calls where you're like, oh, I hope I get this one, or do you all sort of, is it like the kindergartners playing, is it like the little leaguers playing soccer or whatever, and they all run to the ball? What's the mentality when there's certain calls that come out? And
yeah, it can be that way depending on what kind of night you're having. You know, if you're called to call, you know, you're just hoping you don't get another call. But there are those nights when dispatchers are dispatching other officers and you're kind of sitting there and they're trying to give those officers as much updates as quick as possible. So they're getting the information first and relaying it to us. And of course, you'll hear somebody like, yeah, we got a guy outside screaming and he's naked. And you're just like, oh, like, I'm happy that's not my call, but I may start drifting that way just to see how this goes down. You know, I maybe need a little bit more details into this call because the officers will get there pretty quick. So once the officers are on scene, dispatchers are no longer saying details over the radio. And you're just like, oh, what's happening? I need to know what's happening. Or like, is this dude, like, what is he doing? I need to know.
Okay, so probably connected to that, I can't tell you how many times I've seen police officers where they're just parked next to each other, facing opposite directions, driver's windows down, talking. Are you guys just talking about like the last call you were on, or just shooting the breeze? What happens right there in that little meetup?
Honestly, man, we're sharing our favorite Pinterest recipes. No, we that's our time because sometimes, yeah, if we just got off the call, that could be our beat partner. We meet up because he may have notes in reference to what I have. So if I'm taking the report, he may have some notes and we're comparing those notes, or I'm just getting the information from him, you know, or sometimes you just need to talk to somebody, you know, so you're going to hang out with your beat partner during the downtime. And also too, it's kind of a tactical thing because if I'm busy on reports, sometimes I don't want to sit by myself. So I'll be like, hey, I'm going to knock this report out, and your buddy's there just to kind of be a ever watchful eye around y'all so no one can sneak up on you.
I've got a million questions, Thomas. I can ask all night.
I know.
So if you've got more,
I do have more.
Speed traps, yes or no?
As well. Oh,
speed traps, yes or no? Speed traps. Where do you stand? What's your position on? You know, you know what a speed trap is. Hiding the cop.
Yeah, I know what it's
behind.
To be honest, like I can tell you right now, me being on patrol, our patrol, we are so busy answering calls, we rarely have time to sit up and do like speed enforcement. We actually have a specialized unit in our department that enforces traffic laws. There are motorcycle guys, so because everyone loves motorcycle cops. But but I mean, I feel like speed traps can be a great necessity because I just know in our town a couple of years ago, we had over 20 fatality accidents and over 90% of them were due to speed. So sometimes I feel they're a necessity because especially come summertime, people are out, people have a little bit more fun, and I feel they can be a good deterrent for a lot of those people. So some people are a little bit more mindful of what they're doing. Am I a fan of them? Not all the time. I'm not, because you know, some people, they think it's negative. You know, people are like, oh, they're just trying to meet a quota. Actually, our department, there is no quota. You're not even allowed to impose a quota on a police department. It's actually illegal. but some departments hold people in higher standards on traffic violations. So I'm on the fence with it. I see the good and I also see the bad.
That's
I
fair.
can tell you what I see. But it's only once.
You don't see it until you got the cherries lit up in your rear
I
view.
see
is
the
what you
lights
see.
in my rear view mirror. That's what I see.
Yep.
Todd has a question here. Says, Brian, do you have access to a police chaplain? I was one in Virginia Beach for 7 years.
Wow, for one, thank you for doing that, because that is a huge thing, because now, mental health has become the forefront of everything in all aspects. We actually do, I believe at this time, we actually have 12 chaplains who volunteer their time, and they have like a call out list, and they are available at any time, day or night, for officers and civilians on calls.
Wow. How recent is this? I mean, there's probably been one or two that have been around from time to time. But what would you say? From the front seat. Right. For a little context, Ivan, he is a staple of this channel. He has a history that he has been very transparent with about his past and what he's gone through. And he is, he's a different man, family man, but he educates the rest of us on his experiences and where he's been. And he brings comedic relief in that regard too. So context for that comment from Ivan, who,
Nice.
Speaking from experience.
he's not scared to share. That's awesome. But so, yeah, when the chaplain things came about, I'm sure there's a few back in the day, but now you said you have 12. How recent do you think that really started to become a big thing and has been utilized, or from what you've seen?
I've seen they actually get utilized pretty regularly, especially in like bad cases where we have to respond where possibly a homicide has occurred.
Mhm.
Our officers know now, instead of officers just showing up and doing what a cop needs to do to contain the evidence, get statements, and interview people, it's traumatic. So we understand now, like, mental health plays a huge role in everything, and we're still learning this, that we will almost right off the bat offer, like, hey, do you need someone to come out here? Because again, if we can try to calm them down, it tries to help us do our job a lot better. Because in the end, I'm here to help you, but I need your cooperation for me to do my job correctly. So if I can calm you down, yeah, we'll call for a chaplain to come out. And also too, I mean, just as officers, I mean, sometimes you need to talk to somebody who's not your wife or your best friend or your parents.
Or
You
your
need to
beat
talk to
partner.
somebody. Yeah,
Right.
or your beat partner. And it's a very important thing. And faith guides almost everybody. And having that advice, or they're honestly there just to be a listening ear, just to listen. And sometimes that's all we want. It's just, hey, just listen to what I have to say and let me go about my day.
Well, go ahead, Scott.
Let me take it. I keep interjecting just random thoughts. This is how my brain works. Brian, I apologize.
Nice.
You get to deal with that. First of all, that's really cool. That is neat. I remember around 9/11, really how that became to the forefront, where we heard about what first responders had been through, not just first responders, but dispatchers, and the need for them to have somebody to talk to. And we realized that pretty much nationwide that had been overlooked in a lot of different ways. So it's good to hear that there's, that's well covered for you. But I have a question that's, as you might not know, I'm a bit of a nerd, right? I've got like all sorts of gear running my channel, way too much gear, right? I could run it off a laptop, but instead I have all this.
Right.
What's your favorite piece of police gear? Like, what's your, like, hey, this is the upgrade. Look what I got on my duty belt type thing. Is it all standard issue, or is there something you're like, hey, I got the latest taser?
Oh man, we always improve our belts. My department is very nice enough. When you go through the academy, they supply you with everything, uniform, belt, and everything you need on your belt, except your handgun. Of course, my handgun is my favorite thing because that's the one thing we can kind of upgrade, with the new and latest stuff. So like going from iron sights, which are just sights on the gun where you have the two posts and the one in the front. Now I have like a red dot on it, so getting to use that, qualify with it. We recently, I want to say a couple years ago, we just got brand new tasers. So we got the like newest model, almost like the iPhone edition of tasers. So getting to train on that and use it was kind of fun because you're just like, ooh, it's a new toy, let's see how this works.
Mary has a great question here. Not sure if you're familiar. This is a case out of Boston. And Karen Reed is accused of hitting and killing her husband, John O'Keefe, and leaving him to die outside. He was a police officer. There's a lot to this case, and it's on surface. We could spend all week talking about it, and we wouldn't scratch the surface. It's just barely. Jury's getting picked right now. Have you heard anything about this, or do you have any?
Honestly, I haven't heard anything about that, to be
Oh, man.
honest, because there's so much that goes on social media. And my personal opinion, I try not to get too in depth on it, because as an officer, there's always two sides to the story. And unfortunately, with media and a lot of other things, one side really only gets told. And I can't honestly say I haven't heard about that one. I would need to know, like you, it would take me weeks to read through everything to kind of figure it out.
So knowing Brian, he's going to Google it as soon as the show's over.
I probably will.
Yeah,
I probably will.
So
and what's funny, I'll Google it and I'll be like, oh yeah, that case.
Right.
It's a rabbit hole. Once you fall down, you can't get out. It's wild. It involves allegations of police corruption, and it's bizarre. But
yeah, it's a pretty wild one. I've got a quick break here, Brian. We do this with a lot of people, so it has nothing to do with your profession. It's just a quick rapid fire. All right. I'm going to ask you, would you rather this or this? And you got just whatever comes to mind in your first like 2-3 seconds. You just got to fire it off. But that way the people get to know you a little bit outside of what you do. So
no wrong answers.
All right. No wrong answers. Yes.
Just opinions. All right. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Steak or pasta?
Steak.
Tacos or pizza?
Pizza.
Beach or the mountains?
Beach.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Well, so this kind of goes in then. Breakfast burritos or donuts?
Donuts. Donuts.
And who's cooler? Police officers or firefighters?
Police officers.
That's always a fun one. We know,
but firefighters are the most loved.
It's really fun. Part of the academy that we go through is, and this week, obviously Brian knows, but we actually get to go hang out with the firefighters for a portion of the class and play with all their fun toys, and actually get up on the bucket on a 100-foot ladder and go up there and shoot fire hoses. And it's so much fun because Thomas or Scott all day long. That's a given. But it's fun to watch the banter between PD and FD. But being there and hanging out with them in that setting and seeing their stuff, watching the FD and PD hang out in the camaraderie and just being pals and knowing what they do and stuff. So it's really fun to watch the banter, but yet you guys are all friends at the end of the day and get along because you guys see traumatic stuff day in and day out together.
We got a very good thing going on with our fire department here because they respond to a lot of calls that we respond to as well. So sometimes it becomes a race on who can beat who to that call and who can be the savior that day. But no, they go through a lot just as much as we do. And yeah, we poke and jab at each other, but in the end, like we would do anything for each other if it came down to it. We would really be there for each other.
That's so cool. And I could tell on the last Monday watching the guys just kind of hang out and get together and the camaraderie that was there. And at the end of the day, you guys all see some really hairy stuff. I mean, that a lot of us don't see, and a lot of us will never see some of the stuff that you guys see in your first 6 months. I mean, how soon into your career did you see something that struck you and went, I knew I was becoming a peace officer and this was going to be heavy, but holy cow, I just experienced heavy?
Week 2 of being with my first training officer, I went to a fatality car accident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was a bad one. And what made it even worse, like his personal family was around the corner and knew it was him. So they're coming around the corner and I'm not gonna lie, it's not my proudest moment, literally having to tackle a mother on the ground because now it's considered a crime scene and it needs to be investigated. And I get it. She wants to be I don't want to deny a parent their child, but I have to do my job, and like having to like push people back and be like, no, you can't. I felt awful. I'm fresh out, but that was my first like, wow, this is real. This is where it's going to get real.
So post that event, whether it was a day or two or a week or a month, when you started reflecting back, were you like, wow, that was heavier than I expected things to be, or that's about what I expected and I better buckle up because now I'm about to see this all the time? Or how did you reflect on that?
I don't know. I guess I just have that mentality in my mind. I have seen some way worse situations and been a part of a lot of bad ones. And in that moment, I'm just like, I have a job to do, and there's a correct way I have to do this. So that part of me takes over, and it's like, look, I just need to do my job, and this is part of it. After the fact, yeah, you kind of sit down, and you're just kind of like, man, I feel kind of bad, but I keep going back to that part saying, no, this is the job. This is how it has to be done. This is what you have to do.
Fair enough. Perfect
We got
timing, Red Pen.
We got a flip side question from Red Pen. Says, I want to know the opposite. I want to hear about his most heartwarming or fulfilling moment as a police officer.
Oh, recently, I want to say I've had a lot of good moments. You know, I've donated my own money, like person trying to get out of town, don't have any money. I've gone and bought a gas can, filled up their car, you know, sent them on their way, you know, wished them the best. Or, you know, especially when it comes to kids, we have some families reach out and be like, hey, you know, we're doing this for this special kid. He does a lot. Can y'all do this? And being able to like put those little moments together for them and have fun with it, like you just see their faces just light up, and it's just the best feeling in the world, because out of all the bad we deal with, and honestly it's 95% bad, those few 5% is like where everything changes, and you're just like, nope, this is why I do the job. Like that whole 95% doesn't matter anymore. It all resets.
That's cool. That's
So,
and those outweigh the bad too, huh? I bet you get that one enlightening moment, and that can kind of overshadow 2 or 3 of the negative ones.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Lenova asks here, Brian, do you want to be a detective, or what's your ideal position in law enforcement?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, who doesn't want to be chief of the department, right? No. But no, I was actually in misdemeanor detectives, and that was fun. I enjoyed it. But I actually, when I was in there, I was only there for about 5 to 6 months when I was asked to join our community service division as the public informations officer. And since I've been in this position, I don't want to be anywhere else. I really don't. This is where I know I belong. I'm a talker. I like to teach. I like to teach the right information and speak the truth. And this is where I get to shine. So I'm where I want to be right now. I want to keep this spot.
So let me ask you a piggyback question on that. This channel, we follow court cases, obviously, and one of the other things we follow are, you know, police activity. Sometimes we covered the Cavalcante manhunt up in Pennsylvania. We've covered quite a few police chases. I mean, we've got
this police unit is trying to box him in, but instead he just crashes into the tree.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of bits that we love, and we like that. We like the transparency that comes to that. As a PIO, as a public information officer, where do you find that balance between the public getting information, like releasing the video footage, the body cam footage, which sometimes can be pretty rough, and you know, protecting the investigation? How do you walk that line? Where do you lean as far as, you know, transparency and the line?
It's pretty much like you just said it right there. Like a lot of people will be like, well, you're not telling us enough. You're trying to hide something, or you're trying to cover something up. People will go to social media in a heartbeat with very limited information. And I hate to tell you, the information is going to be limited because, like you just said, it is under investigation. Because as soon as you start leaking stuff out, the public starts taking it and running with it. And these could be your potential jurors. So they don't need to, a lot of this information, they don't need to know, in my opinion. We need to get it to you, I promise you, we're going to tell it to you. We're going to tell you what you need to know so you know what's going on. Is there a threat to the community? No. Or is this person armed? Yes. But on a lot of cases, you know, just for the sake of the case, no, we're not going to release information because it's still under investigation.
That was the wrong answer.
Sorry, man. Like Thomas would tell you, I'm all about the truth here, and that's the hard truth.
I'm coming from the news background, and I understand. I've been through the academy, and I've got good friends that were sheriff and deputies and everything else, and I see that. But at the same time, I'm like, they're going to talk anyways. we've got one bystander's footage that's already going viral on TikTok, and this is just going to blow up. Can't we provide some accurate information? And so it's always a battle. I like to fight that battle. I'm the FOIA guy. We're the one making the request and using the law to get everything we can. So we're
and trust me, I would love to get out more info. I really would. And it's hard. Like, I'll get information. I have to kind of filter through it on what I can actually give out, or I'll get with the detective or the sergeant and be like, hey, what can I release at this time? Because as something is happening behind the scenes in policing, things are happening just as fast. Like, we may have some evidence that we need to follow up on really quick, or we may have a general idea who it is, and we just don't want them to know and skip out of town. So we're calling in specialized units, people to like hunt this person down pretty much so we can get them arrested quicker.
So, a lighter note, same topic. Why do banks have the worst security camera footage?
I really wish I knew that answer, because I can tell you right now, the self-checkout cameras in Walmart are phenomenal.
Unreal good.
Absolutely phenomenal. So you're just like, whoa, okay. So that's how they're saving all their money. They're not paying their employees, but yet they're going to pay for these awesome cameras. Good for you.
In front of the Walmart.
But I don't know. Like, to be honest, some of these banks, it's one of those things too. If it's not happening to them, they don't think about it until it's too late, until something happens and they're like, oh, well, maybe I should have better cameras. And you're like, yeah, maybe you should.
That's fair.
Ivan brings up a good point. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Thomas.
Interrogation rooms, audio and video, because we watch all the trials we watch. Obviously, it comes into evidence and we get to view it. And then all the audio and the video just goes to garbage. Why don't they invest in those? Because that's so important for everything in that interview to be captured so perfectly. I mean, I know the answer comes down to budget. It's money.
It really does, budget. And and if it's working somewhat, like if they can hear decent audio and have somewhat of a video, they're not gonna change it. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to budget, because we are limited on what we can and get. And and some of it, you have to buy the good stuff because it has to meet a certain standard in your department and even for the state. But yeah, I really wish I had a better answer for that. But like you just hit it on the head. It's all about money. Money.
It's all built by the lowest bidder too, right?
Yeah.
100%. So you've been on your department for 10 years coming up.
Correct.
You're right about there. Back up 10 years. You kind of gave us a tidbit of this already. You're kind of heading towards military, so you don't get that option. Brian, you're not an officer. 10 years later, what are you? What are you doing? What's a career that you're in?
No, I'll probably be an officer in the Air Force, because that was where I was going to go. I was going to go talk to an Air Force recruiter because I just graduated college. I'm like, send me to officer school and let's party.
So along those lines, when you're not working, tell us a little bit about Brian off shift. What's the hobbies? What are you interested in?
I'm boring, Brian. No. Oh no, I'm a married man. I actually had my 4-year anniversary next Thursday. Never forget, or I will be in a lot of trouble. But no, I'm coming up on 4 years. Thank you. But my downtime, I got a dog. Let my dog hang out with my wife. Got to do the honeydews around the house. And my new passion, really, I don't even want to call it a hobby anymore. It's a passion that I just discovered, is I like to do photography. I like to go around taking pictures. So my wife and my dog are sick of me doing it, but because I got a billion pictures of them. But it actually, being an officer, allows me the opportunity to like go drive around town and be like, oh, that's a good picture, and pop out and take a picture real quick. I may look a little funny doing it, but in the end, it pays off.
So you have the best laid out crime scene pictures ever. They're like, wow, look at this focus. It really draws the eye to the corpse in the scene.
It's just, wow. He finds some lines so well.
Well, that passion works out well with your role as a PIO, because a lot of what you're doing and all the community involvement, capturing those moments and sharing with the public that aren't attending those events. And you get to post them on social media, right? So people kind of get to be there and experience it and live it through the photography. So that's pretty cool. Does it?
Yeah, I could have a lot of fun with it. Like last week, our SWAT guys, they were doing their monthly SWAT training, they're like, hey, can you come out and take some pictures just for us to have because we don't really have anything? I was like, yeah. I mean, I go hang out with SWAT guys, get the opportunity to possibly like do some SWAT stuff, even though I'm not on the team. It's like, but I'm capturing those moments for them, and honestly, I get to be a part of the camaraderie and the fun and all that other stuff.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I like it. I've got one tough one for you.
Okay.
And only because you only get one option, and I'm sure there's probably 50 that you'd like to say. But if you wish you could share one bit of insight or knowledge or something you wish the public knew about policing or law enforcement, what would that one takeaway be that you wish they actually knew or could grasp that they don't?
We're human. We're human. People see cops as an officer, an enforcer, a counselor, all these different roles. But in the end, I just need people to understand, like, I'm human just like you. Like, I chose this career. I love my career, and I take that risk every day. But in the end, I'm human. And so it comes down to, choice and respect. Like, I'm going to talk to you the same way you talk to me. You're cool with me, I'm cool with you. But like I said, we're human beings. In the end of the day, we have to go home to our families, our loved ones, and suppress stuff that we may see because we don't want to let our family members know how we're feeling, especially as a male police officer. It's just like, oh, you're a guy, you're going to be fine. When actually inside you're screaming just for someone to listen and understand for a moment. And it's hard for people to understand because, as we said before, you just don't know. You just don't experience what we go through. But in the end, we're just human beings. I wish more people would just understand I'm not a cop. I'm a human. I'm a person.
That's cool.
That's cool. I love it. That's phenomenal. I've told you growing up in a law enforcement family, my dad, he was 40 years, my good friend, who's retired of it. And they have all said how much that job changed them. And they all look back of, man, I handled situations with my family, with my kids, with my wife, based off of what I brought home from work from time to time to time. And I reflect back and I'm like, man, if I could change all that and do everything. And it's just the job really sticks you.
It does. It really alters you. And I tell a lot of our recruits, because I have the opportunity to be around them a lot. And I'm just like, I'm telling you right now, like, this job it's gonna physically and mentally change you. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like, it really will. Some people are like, oh, it's just a job, it's a career. And I'm like, no, like, it literally is going to change your life. And you have to be ready for that. Because you're going to see some things, hear some things, do some things that you would have never thought in a million years you would be doing. But it's like, no, it's going to change you. So just be ready.
That's fair.
That's a really awesome answer. I appreciate you sharing that. That is amazing. I don't want to end on something that heavy. I've got to ask you a couple more questions. What's the fastest you've driven in your police car? I mean, not the time you crashed it, but top speed. we're comparing. Thomas is going to give his top speed on the motorcycle in a minute.
We don't know who's watching.
Yeah. I think that motorcycle is going to have me beat, but I think the fastest I've gotten a car up to is about 115.
Okay,
Thomas,
and that was on night shift. No cars on the road, just beelining down a straightaway road, like
closed course, professional.
Almost.
My car and my motorcycles go the speed limit. That's all I've got.
Mm-hmm. I bet they
I don't get a pass. I don't get a pass. It's
130.
That's yours?
Friend's car, Mazda MX-6 turbocharged. It's desert road, middle of the night. Friend had food. I was headed to the hospital. I was going to the ER. My friend had food poisoning. I thought he was dying. I actually went. We went to the hospital. So, yeah.
So I've done 161 on the motorcycle and 141 in a car, or 143 in the car. Not my car either. Motorcycle was mine.
I will say, before I became a cop, I had some buddies that had a motorcycle, and I had learned to drive a motorcycle, so I wasn't very experienced. So what they do, they threw me on the Hayabusa, and I think I topped it out at one time at like 160. I realized this was fun, but I'm going to kill myself. I never did it again.
so same. I've got 2 motorcycles. That top speed run I did, I was young and dumb. I don't think I've hit triple digits since I've had motorcycles again, because I realized that was dumb. Especially now with family and all that, it's not even that fun. It was just scary. So now it's
Yeah.
that, and plus just knowing where the cops hide in town, there's not a lot of places to speed anymore. So
yeah, and that's for a reason. It's for a reason.
If there's anyone, and I don't know if they are, but if you had to give some advice for anyone that's thinking about going into law enforcement, what would be your advice to them? Whether it would be a certain degree, education, experience, or just a mindset. If they're curious and want to do it, what would you say?
Do it. It's a leap of faith.
Cool.
People, current climate since COVID, people are scared to become cops because of what we see on social media and on the news, and there was the whole defund the police and BLM movement and all that. And people were scared, and they were like, well, I'm here to tell you right now, when you know in your heart you're doing something right and you're educated on the law, like a lot of officers are, not all of them, but a lot of them are, because there are bad cops. I'll be the first to say that. No one hates a bad cop more than a good cop, because they're the reasons why I have to go back and do all this extra training because of the new laws that have been made. But just do it. I promise you, it's a life-changing experience, and you will be doing good. You will do something great for somebody, whether it's your first year in or your 20th year in. At one point in time, you're going to have a moment where you're like, this is why I do the job.
I love it. That's such a good answer. That it's much better than I was trying to predict what might come out of what you're going to say. Just
Don't
do
it. No.
No, I thought it would be chase this degree or get some experience here, or, talk with friends or family or this or that, but just do it. Just the leap of faith. I love that. It's so raw and so honest and real, and it makes sense. I've had many conversations. I was this close to doing it and I just didn't do it. I chickened out. And that probably means I might not be fit for the job, but those like yourself that just do it and get in, they're probably better fit than someone like myself or others that don't just take that leap of faith. So that's great.
You're all right.
Well, I'm glad you chose to just do the podcast. Just like, yes. I'm not sure if Thomas told you, but I teased this interview for like 3 weeks. Yeah. As soon as he said there was an interview, I ignored everything else. I'm like, I'm so excited for this. I'm like, guys, we got an interview this week. And he's texting me, not this week, later. I'm still working on it. So for 3 weeks, I've been saying, we've got a really cool guest coming. You guys are going to love it. And finally it's here. And I don't think you disappointed in any way. It's just been awesome. Awesome having you here.
Thank you.
Any final words, anything funny you want to share? I have to ask, did you hear about the police officer that arrested the celery? Charged him with stalking?
That's a good one.
Oh, speaking of celery, in the end of the show, my wife asked for some peace and quiet as she made dinner. So I went ahead and took the batteries out of the smoke detector.
Oh, and I was going to say, this is more of a statement. Whoever hacked my Microsoft Office account, I will find you. That's my word.
Awesome. Brian, it has been awesome. Thomas, props to you. Amazing guest. Brian, it has been wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm excited that you get to hang out with Thomas and teach him the ropes a little bit about how policing works nowadays. And I'm excited to learn secondhand. Hopefully we can get you back. We'd love to have you back and maybe have you comment
my information. Just hit me up. I can always make time for something like this.
I love it.
It would be awesome. You're a natural, so you probably should have your own podcast as well. So I mean, you've got the mic. You look professional. You got the chair. I think we got the same chair. Look at this.
Sam's Club.
Yes, that's the one. That's the chair.
Is this why my back hurts? Because I'm on a wooden stool.
Yeah, that's probably it. With a doily on it for cushioning.
Yes,
indeed. Upgrade, Tom.
Brian, you're the man. Thanks so much for accepting the invite and hanging out and chatting. I can't thank you enough for what you do on the academy, and I'm so excited for next Monday and what we got going.
Man. We'll see you there.
Sounds good.
Cool. I don't have. Oh wait, yes, I do have the ability to wrap this up. Okay, I'm on the wrong computer. Thank you both. Thanks to everybody for being here in chat. Thanks for your questions and comments. It has been a blast hanging out with y'all. We're going to be live again tomorrow morning with the Kelly case verdict watch. The jury's deliberated for about an hour and a half. They've got some questions. We might have a verdict tomorrow. We'll see. Thomas, Brian, have a good night. See you guys later.
Scott, as always.